What we want to do as a rational society is making acquiring those weapons of mass destruction, i.e. the magazines, the capacity to do that kind of destruction, much more difficult to get. In addition, as we run our sample, we are going to demonstrate how difficult it is to fire 720 shots out of a semi-automatic weapon, even with a bump fire, when you only have 10 round magazines. That is, you are swapping out, at the rate of fire that we've projected, 50 magazines. You go through the first 12, dumping them, and you then have to take one and swap it out 50 times. So this is very problematic for anybody who has done any kind of shooting. Everybody realizes that your first bullet in often is something that jams. He recognized this as a problem, swapping magazines as a problem, and that's why he brought 12 of them up there, in addition to 11 other guns, which we're not exactly sure what they were, but he had at least 12 that he had fitted with these bump fires and these big magazines. And the reason why he had 12 of them and not 2 or 3 or 5 of them is because he didn't want to change out the magazines either. He realized it was a problem. He was going to solve that problem by just being able to cycle through one at a time. Okay? Once you have to start cycling through magazines, it becomes a problem. If you look at the shooter down in Aurora at the theater, once his gun jammed, he just bailed on it. So this is a problem. You need to be able to limit the size of magazines, and that would limit the capacity for these crazy people who pass background checks and then later become crazy. Okay, so if you're going to have background checks, number one, they need to be universal background checks, because anybody can fit through a hole here. And you need to close all of those holes and make them legitimate background checks. Additionally, it's just like a driver's license. Driver's license, you're checked every 5 or 10 years to make sure you can still see. Okay? To make sure that you haven't lost an arm or something, and that you can still have the capacity to drive. Okay? Same thing with background checks. You need to be able to run background checks on people over a course of time. Now, I'm not even talking about registration here. Registration is a completely separate issue than magazines. And it's a completely separate issue than background checks. But what does a person need 42 guns for? You're not taking 42 guns down to the local range every day, or even one day, and shooting all 42 guns. Now, I understand, a lot of people are collectors. A lot of people do like to shoot a lot of different weapons. Again, we're not going to infringe on their Second Amendment rights. We're going to allow them to own as many guns as they want. But once you've done, let's say, an arbitrary number, 5, 10, whatever that number is, background checks in an allotted period of time, at that point, you should have to apply for a collector's license. And at that point, we should know who you are. Because you're either A, a collector, B, a collector / gun enthusiast, hunter, that's fine, or C, you're purchasing weapons for nefarious reasons, including but not limited to supplying not just yourself, but a potential group of people with these powerful weapons. Now, a lot of people haven't even thought very far about this issue. He was one guy operating alone, and he was able to pull this off. Every terrorist group in the world looked at this and went, what would have happened if we'd have had 4 guys on the scene? 2 guys in one hotel and 2 guys in another hotel, defending the hallways and allowing crossfire into these crowds. I'm telling you, the destruction would have been in the thousands. They would not have been able to get into those rooms very easily at all. He only fired for 10, 11 minutes. You have somebody holding that corridor, you can sit there and fire for an hour, maybe even if it's just a half hour. And then if you have other operators either on the ground or in another hotel, then you're going to create even more chaos and more destruction. So this is one guy has the capability, walk in a store, walk out of the store with enough firepower to go shoot 500 people. He could have walked in the store and come out with enough firepower to give to 3 other guys to shoot 2,000 people. So it's the capacity that we're talking about, not eliminating the weapons. I don't care if you want to eliminate bump stocks or not, do it. It doesn't matter to me. But you've got to do something with magazine size in this country. Now, one final point. I'm not an idiot. I'm not sitting here saying that reducing the magazine size is all of a sudden going to stop all the mass murders in this country with automatic weapons. First of all, you're going to have to do some kind of buyback program. You're going to have to do a swap out program. You're going to have to. It's going to take years and years to get a lot of these things off the streets. They're going to become hot items in the black market. It's just like drugs or anything else. If you want to get your hands on a 30 or 60 or 100 round magazine, even though they're banned and illegal and felonies, you're going to be able to do it. That's not a good enough excuse to say, well, since they're going to be able to do it illegally, we may as well just make it legal. Okay? If they're going to be able to buy heroin illegally, why don't we just make it legal? I mean, to heck with it. Let's throw in the towel on it. So this is what we're talking about, is making it more difficult for these people to have the capacity to kill this many. I will proffer you this. If this guy would have had to go into illegal or black markets to buy these large capacity magazines, which he would have had we had a control of the magazine size, then he would have at least had an opportunity to get caught. So he would have had to travel down a separate road. As it was, he just walked in, bought everything, went home, loaded up, boom, 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 boom. If he's got to go find contacts in the black market, he's got to go do these transactions, there's at least a chance that he's going to get caught, that he's going to stumble. Additionally, there's a chance that he may not even decide to do this because it's kind of a pain in the ass. So what you need to do is make it more of a pain in the ass for guys like this. And is it going to stop Of course it's not. And the fact is that if we do this and reduce the magazine size, we're never going to know how many lives we saved. So everybody in the NRA and all the gun guys can come out and say, see, we did it and it didn't do anything. Well, the fact is you're never going to know if it did anything or not. It's common sense approach to guns. The capacity to kill large amounts of people need to be limited. We limit the capacity for you to buy explosives in this country. Why? Because you can kill large amounts of people with them. Now, you can kill large amounts of people with a truck, etc., etc. But let's face it, a gun is a very effective weapon to do this kind of things with. So you're not going to solve the problem by doing this. It's going to take years and years, and you're still going to have people who are going to go out and do mass murders, and when they find the weapon's going to have a 30 or a 50 or a 60 or a 100 round clip on it, and they're going to go, see, it didn't work. Well, in this case, it didn't work. But the fact is, we've got to make it more difficult for people to do. I'll throw one other thing at you. This guy passed all of his background checks, which means he could have applied for a Class 3 license. And he could have gone out and picked up an M284, belt-fed, squad automatic weapon. And he could have mounted that thing. My Frenchie needs some love. He could have mounted that thing up in one of those windows and ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. You want to talk about death and destruction, and he would have done it legally. So he didn't even go as far as he could have gone in accomplishing this goal. He could have had fully automatic belt-fed machine guns. Bum, 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 bum. You want to talk about raining some death and destruction down. He didn't even go as far as he could. So that's something else that we can talk about at a later date. So let me go do this demonstration. We'll add in the clip, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit.